Out of all the emotions that we feel, one of the most toxic ones that we hold on to for far too long is anger. Anger usually shows up when something is unfair, and when we hold on to that feeling, resentment, and we harbor it into our physical system, it can show up as dis-ease. Anger can boil over into all different parts of your life, infiltrating your relationships, your attitude, and even your confidence. So if you're someone who has struggled with anger and you're finding it hard to control yourself when you snap at people, this episode is absolutely for you, because we're going to share a few tips and tools to manage your anger and how to prepare yourself so that you don't fully snap. Hey, we're Britt and Chris Carmichael, and you're listening to the Elevated Life Podcast. Throughout the 16 years we've been together, we've never ceased in our endless quest to better ourselves.
We've studied top experts, philosophers, and gurus. After years of personal self-experimentation and working with thousands of clients, we've found the tools for shifting your beliefs, moving through fears, and developing a positive mindset that aligns with your authenticity, integrity, and soul purpose, regardless of your past.
If you're ready for a breakthrough, then you're in the right place, because we're here to empower you to take control of your life with simple mindset shifts that create radical transformation.
We'll be diving into topics like personal growth, health, philosophy, spirituality, relationships, success, and mindfulness. We don't shy away from the taboo topics like sex, hypnosis, meditation, and exploring altered states of consciousness.
So create some space for yourself and get comfy. It's time to become the badass you were born to be. So I'll never forget the hypnosis session that I did with Chris on forgiveness. It was a really beautiful process that led me to reveal a lot of my inner pain and childhood trauma from different people and relationships that I've had in my past. But the one that really shocked me was when he said, "Now put yourself in the chair, and I want you to forgive yourself." The version of me that showed up was my 17-year-old self with black hair, very overweight, 95 piercings in her face, and she just looked like a big ball of anger. And I was surprised to witness myself ask this question: "Why are you so angry?" And she said, without a doubt, without hesitation, "Because I have so much love to give and no one to give it to." And in that moment, I had the biggest epiphany of my life that all the love I had been trying to give away through sex as a teenager or all the other unhealthy coping mechanisms to try to feel loved and nurtured was a waste, because the love that I needed was actually the love that I had for myself. And I was too busy trying to give it away to people who didn't deserve it. So in realizing that all of that anger, that unfairness, that injustice was really towards myself, and that forgiveness unlocked my absolute freedom.
Damn, I didn't know you were going to start that heavy.
I mean, fuck.
What's really interesting is that anger can be such a destructive thing. And really the first tip here, Britt's already alluded to, and that is the fact that you have to give yourself love first. If you're constantly seeking love or approval or acceptance, or that someone's going to hold you up or pick you up and say that you're good enough and everything's going to be okay, it's going to be a long life. It's going to be a long road, and there's going to be a lot of disappointment, which I think was the frustration that you're saying you had. And that is not that other people didn't love you. It's that you had not discovered so far that you needed to love you. And that if you're looking for someone else to love you because you don't, you have a problem. And that problem oftentimes leads to anger. You can tell that anger is one of those things where you are going to put someone in a position lower than you. It's, I'm the victor here. Something has been done wrong to me, and here's this other person who's doing these bad things to me, and I don't like them. They're the enemy over there. And as long as we have that real big distant separation between the two of us, there's always going to be some sort of issue that comes up. Because as we start to love ourselves on the inside, what we stop doing is expecting everybody else to do all these things that we want, that we have to do for ourselves. So dealing with your self-image is a huge part of the beginning of getting rid of anger. If you don't like who you are, if you don't like how your life is, if you don't like the choices that you've made, if you don't like where you're at, you're always going to be upset. And that upset will start to leave when you just decide, I'm going to take full responsibility for everything. I'm going to carry it all on my shoulders. That is the beginning of that freedom. I know it sounds daunting. It's like, holy shit, that's going to be a lot of work. If I'm going to pull myself up by the bootstraps and I'm going to have to get on with this life and do all these things that I know that I want to do and that I need to do, and maybe I've settled, and maybe I'm looking in my relationship going, damn, did I settle there? Maybe I'm looking in my financial life and going, what, did I settle on that? Or maybe it's just the attitude that I have about myself or about life, how I feel, that I settle there too. And so it's really important that you're just changing your attitude around. All we're talking about here with anger and with emotions and with thoughts and with negative thinking is you changing your attitude around. So it's really important to start getting into that mode where it's a self-love, that is baked into your schedule every single day. The more that you give to yourself during that time, the better you'll feel everywhere else in life.
So my first tip is something my mom used to always say to me: think before you speak. And I would always think to myself, if you only knew what the hell I was actually thinking before I said what I said, you'd be proud of me. So remember, you can't take back the words that you say, especially the ones that you say in anger. They're usually based in defense mode and your ego is speaking. And it's hard to repair that damage that is done once you've said something in anger. So one of the tricks that I use, if someone is triggering me or saying something that is making me feel that feeling of anger, that's a really important tip, is to recognize that you aren't angry, that you feel anger, and it's what you do with it. And when I start to feel that energy of anger creating that burning sensation in my body, I want you to think about how you feel when anger arises. This emotion is trying to let you know, it's a signal. And for me, that signal is I get really hot. I start burning up, and then I get flustered, and then I realize I'm in full angry mode. Something isn't right. It's my body's signal to let me know to pay attention, that something is unfair, something, there's just something to be paying attention to. So that heat for me is what is my indicator that I need to take a big deep breath. And I just say to myself, peace, calm, I am loving. And in that instant of taking a deep breath and setting that intention that I want to come from a place of love. Now, this is not easy. This takes a lot of practice, but it can be done. In that moment, it gives me the opportunity to respond versus react from a place of anger.
It's great if you can set yourself up with these kind of word triggers, word cues, mantras, whatever you want to call it, that will allow you to go into a space where you're already relaxed. It's really important to have a strategy for anger before you actually get to the anger part. Because once you are fully there, it's difficult to pull off. I mean, it's difficult to get away from it. So if you have some sort of strategy going in, if you can like, oh, well, hell, if I get angry, I'm going to do what Britt's talking about, and I'm going to tell myself calm, peace. I tell you, for me, if you remember Bad Boys, the movie, Will Smith and Martin Lawrence, and with the police captain, he's like, woosah, woosah. So I tell myself that. Even though I've got a million other kind of triggers like this, I love that because it reminds me like, hey, just everything's going to be okay. Everything's going to be all right. Whatever happened, probably it's not supposed to happen that way. Maybe you're misunderstanding. But that woosah or whatever that trigger is for you gives you something where you can pull back enough. The other thing that's really important for you to be doing is to get out and do some sort of exercise. If you can get out and express the energy in some way, this is why I like going to the gym. I mean, you don't always have to go to the gym to look great naked. It can be one of those things where you want to go to allow any kind of emotion. I love how Britt always used to say this definition that emotion is energy in motion. And so you want to be able to express that energy, to move it around, to move it through your body, to expel it. But I will tell you this doesn't mean, especially if you're going to go into the gym or into some sort of sport, you don't go 100% from the get-go. A lot of times when we have a lot of anger, it's very easy to try to just dump all of it at once. Our body's like, oh my God, I don't want it. Just get rid of it. That's why we'll yell. That's why we'll throw a punch. It's because your body
break your coffee mugs.
It is because your body is telling you, let's get rid of this. So let's expel it all in one big blow.
Unhealthy coping mechanism. Don't break your glassware.
So what you want to be doing instead is to go out and just start exercising. Once you're 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes into something, you start to relax. You start to relax more because you've gotten rid of some of that top energy. It may not be all of it, but if in 10 or 20% less, you normally can deal with that. And so just start shaving it off slowly. You don't otherwise you're going to run into an injury. You see, a lot of people get too upset, too excited, too full of the adrenaline, too alcohol, because a lot of people like to use alcohol to kind of numb the anger, and then that turns into another beast. And so what you want to be doing is making sure that you're doing some kind of exercise. It doesn't have to be, it can be walking. It can be literally anything, movement, dancing. It can be laughing. Whatever it is that you love doing, start doing that.
It reminds me of our CrossFit competition days where we would lift heavy ass weight and I would use anger to move that bar. And when we started getting into yoga and more flexibility and more mindfulness, I realized that I had burned out all of the anger. I'd done the forgiveness work. Obviously, it still shows up every freaking month, but it is not so much about this injustice or anger from the past that is this looming constant experience. It's rather situational. And when we started doing a lot of the healing work, I realized I don't want to lift this heavy ass weight anymore. The other thing I stopped doing was getting tattooed. I realized that I got a lot of tattoos during that period of my life representing parts of my chapter and things like that. And once I hit that, I don't know, freedom and forgiveness mode, I realized tattoos fucking hurt. I don't want to do this anymore. So I'm convinced that people that lift heavy ass weight have a lot of anger to move around, and people that run for long distances have way too many thoughts.
You know, it's true, but it's so good sometimes, because what you'll have to figure out is that what channel do you need for success? Some people will use anger for that. Some people will use pride for that. Some people will use a lot of different emotions that many of us consider to be not good emotions, but they can be so useful in certain situations. In a competition where we're in overtime and you know the clock's running out and I'm the last one with the ball, I'm bringing everything. I'm going to bring all the anger. I'm going to think of every bad thing that's ever happened to me. I'm going to let all that emotion build up. Like, that's what you would want to do in certain situations. But if you're using that for everything, like, you see the people who get like their revenge body, right? They're so mad because someone broke up with them. Even though I'll tell you that if someone wants to not be with you anymore, it seems like maybe that's not the right relationship, right? I mean, like, you want someone who loves you, who adores you, who wants to take care of you, who wants to support you. Like, that's different. If the person doesn't want to be with you, then that's not it. But a lot of us will get that revenge body. I'm going to work out so hard now. I'm going to show them. It's all anger. And so because you go into the gym or because you go do things strictly out of anger, strictly for someone else's benefit or someone else's demise, it doesn't have the same, you can't unlock the same kind of things because it's not for health. It's not because you enjoy it. It's not because of a way that you do self-care. That's why it's so important to have intentions, to be able to know what it is that we're doing and exactly why we're doing it. Because if you are doing a lot of your life out of anger, how do you expect to be happy?
Another thing that you can do, and you have full permission, is to walk away. Don't engage in the drama. One of the things that I do when I find myself getting in a situation that doesn't feel like we're going to find a peaceful resolution or whatever the case may be, I just excuse myself to the bathroom. I am so sorry. Excuse me. I need to go to the bathroom for the moment. Give yourself time to walk away. And if that's not the case, if it's you're yelling in the kitchen with your partner and you're like, excuse me, I need to go to the bathroom, and that just isn't fitting, then just say, hey, I'm feeling a lot of feelings right now and I want to be clear in how I'm expressing myself to you. And right now I feel overwhelmed. So I'm just going to take a moment to gather my thoughts, and give yourself permission to go walk away, go do something different. Most importantly, go call a friend that puts you in a good mood so that you can shift out of anger and into a more positive, uplifted state. Because once you start to raise your emotion, that vibration, it gives you a broader perspective where you can start to look and see, well, why am I feeling this way? You can get to the root of the cause so that you can communicate clearly about your feelings. Whenever you're angry and you're trying to express yourself, you're just like, I don't fucking know, I'm just so mad. But if you take a moment to calm down, to get new perspective, you can kind of come to the realization like, well, actually, this thing that you did made me feel a certain way, and it could be resolved with this simple change. But in the moment, if someone asks you, well, what can I do? Like, what the hell? You're probably not going to give them a very clear answer.
I'll tell you too, I think it's really important because it's just as important to be able to manage your own anger as it is to be able to do something when someone else gets angry.
I feel like you're the master at this growing up with your dad.
Well, people get angry. I mean, like, it is a very common part of life. Very, very common. It's just how crazy do people get once they get angry? Like, that's always kind of the barometer of everything. And so it's really, really important that if you have a partner who is upset, doesn't have to be upset with you, can be upset with somebody else, is that you do not whatever you do, match their breathing pattern. If you hold tension in your body in the same places they do while they're angry, the two of you will both be angry and be angrier. Because it's two of you combined. The power of the two of you makes more. It's not just one and one is two. Like when you're talking about anger in really high dose emotional states,
1 and 1 is 10.
yeah, it's heavy. And so you get into the same state as other people by matching the breathing patterns. It's not something you've figured out, or if this is new. Start watching this. Start watching how you're breathing, and notice that the emotional state that you're in matches exactly with whatever breathing pattern that you're doing. That's why people like to do breath work. It's because they're trying to practice enough to not be in crappy states anymore. Like that's really what they're doing. And so make sure when you're with them that, for one, you're not using your mental images to project negative things about them, because that's going to ruin everything, especially your relationship, no matter how mad you are. If you're making bad mental pictures, if you are doing terrible things to them in your head, you're in a bad way. You got to back up. You got to back up a little bit and start breathing. Just start breathing. Stay with your breath a little bit. Take a little bit longer to respond. Maybe it's not you're walking away. Maybe it's a situation where you can't do that and you know that you need to confront it. Maybe you've been waiting a long time. If you will stay calm during that period, if you will breathe in your own way, in a way that makes you feel calm, the interaction will totally change, because they will have to come down to your level.
And the tone of voice too.
They will have to. And the tone of voice, no matter what, and guys are terrible about this, cannot be condescending. The voice, you cannot be disrespectful and condescending and expect to have a positive result. This isn't a let me prove how smart I am or how well I do and you always do this crap. It's going to end bad. That's the other person's going to leave, because when you are just on top of another person verbally like that and emotionally like that, they're going to feel attacked. And if they're already mad, you're done. It's over. So stay calm. Stay calm with you. And remember that everything doesn't have to be resolved immediately. It's not important for every single thing and every single conversation to always be immediate. That would be nice. I like to deal with things as soon as possible. But I'm normally not getting to these anger spots. Like I'm seeing the red flags and the indicators and all the warning signs that I have going off in my brain saying, hey man, this is not a good situation. We got to make some changes here. We got to tell people how we really feel. We've got to be honest with them. We got to be honest with ourselves. This is too much. I don't like it. And so that starts early on. That starts with you having a continuous dialogue with people that's honest and open and saying like, hey, let me talk about where I feel like we are right now and what we can be doing in the future to make it a little bit better.
So anger really is a kick-ass tool, but it can turn killer really quick. There's the old saying, you've got to feel it to heal it. So when that energy comes up, give yourself permission to express it in a healthy way. Maybe you can't do it immediately. Maybe you have to rely on your mantra and your breath work. But one of the favorite things that we teach inside the anger management bundle in the Elevated Life Club is beating the pillow up. Taking a pillow or a tennis racket and really expressing your feelings and your energy out through the physical form. As we mentioned earlier, dance, breathwork, kundalini yoga, all kinds of options to be able to express your emotion. But most importantly, you've got to get it out of the physical body, because it does turn into a dis-ease.
You know, I love the dance and everything, but there's something about the feeling of just whooping something's ass sometimes.
I tell you what,
there's just
breaking glasses is fun, but when it's your special mug that you love so much and you regret it 5 seconds later, that's not good. But when we went to that fucking smash room or rage room, I felt cathartic. That was everything I needed.
That's the feeling you're looking for too. If you're wondering like, does this work? Is what I'm doing working? It's how do you suddenly feel? Did you release anything? Did the anger actually get released? Did the energy move into something different? Was it totally expressed through you? Is there still more hiding? You have to be able to gauge that, because otherwise, what are you doing? You have to be able to see, does this technique work? You use it until you feel that feeling come out. You might feel the tears well up. You might feel the emotions come back. You might see the scenes replay in your mind. Like, all those things are totally normal as you express, as you exercise it out, as you get rid of all that, as you start to like really change your emotional patterns and you start to get a feel for what you can and will not accept. You'll start to change how you look at other people and what your interactions are with them, because you stop coming from that place of anger, because now you know how to deal with it, and now you also know how to deal with other people's. and you'll come from a place instead of just love and realizing that sometimes people are just hurt. Sometimes bad things happen to them so many years ago. I mean, it can be 30, 40 years ago, and they've still tucked that anger down, and they've suppressed it for long enough because they couldn't speak up because no one would let them or no one would listen. And so suddenly they're in a state where they realize, like, I want to express it now. I've got to get it out. And sometimes you're the person in front of them. So just relax. Just know that a lot of times what people are saying, what people are doing doesn't have anything to do with you. I know it'd be great if that were the case, but sometimes people are just dealing with them, and you have to just love them where they're at.
So I want to know, do you have an exercise that you use to manage your anger? Let us know. Share it in the DMs, hit us up on Instagram, or tag us and let us know what you enjoyed from today's episode. If you need more tips and tricks on how to manage anger, you can access the Anger Management Bundle along with 60 other masterclasses inside the Elevated Life Club. You can sign up for a 14-day trial for only $7 by going to theelevatedlifeclub.com, which we highly recommend because for the month of April, we are going to be taking a break from the podcast. We are headed off to Copper Mountain, Colorado to celebrate the Goddess Retreat, and we want to make sure that we are putting all of our attention, love, and sparkle magic into the babes joining us for this upcoming experience. So I recommend that you go back and listen to any of the podcasts that you missed or join us in the club so you can access even more wisdom.
We look forward to seeing you next month. We love you. We hope you do well. Catch you soon.
Peace. Thanks so much for tuning in to the Elevated Life podcast. If you loved this episode, please share that love by leaving us a 5-star review and spreading the good vibes on social. You can tag us at the Elevated Life Club. Want more wisdom from us? Become an elevator by joining us inside our monthly membership club at theelevatedlifeclub.com. to discover mindset upgrades, lifestyle hacks, and spiritual tools to elevate your soul.
Each month features a live group coaching masterclass, guided meditations, yoga practice, and more to help you transform your life one step at a time.
It has all the tools, coaching, and community you need to level up, progress every month, and keep going in every area of your life consistently over the long term.
Join us in the club and start your transformation today by signing up at theelevatedlifeclub.com.